Fellow countrymen, under the Constitution of the United States, another presidential contest approaches us. All over this land, that portion at least of which I know much, the people are assembling to consider the proper course to be adopted by them. And one of the first considerations is to learn what the people differ about. If we ascertain what we differ about, we shall be better able to decide. The question of slavery at the present day should be not only the greatest question, but very nearly the sole question. Our opponents, however, prefer that this should not be the case. Now, to get at this question, I will occupy your attention but for a single moment. The question is simply this: shall slavery be spread into the new territories or not? No! This is the naked question. If we should support Frémont successfully in this, it may be charged that we will not be content with restricting slavery in the new territories. Or you're going to slide it? I don't understand these things. If we should support Frémont successfully in this, it may be charged that we will not be content with restricting slavery in the new territories. But if we should charge that James Buchanan, by his platform, is bound to extend slavery into the territories and that he is in favor of its being thus spread, we should be puzzled to prove it. But we believe it nevertheless. Now, by taking the issue as I present it, whether it shall be permitted as an issue is made up between the parties, and each takes his own stand. This is the question: shall the government of the United States prohibit slavery in the United States? Well, we have been in the habit of deploring the fact that slavery exists amongst us. We have ever deplored it. Our forefathers did. And they declared, as we have done in later years, the blame rested on the mother government of Great Britain. We constantly condemned Great Britain for not preventing slavery from coming amongst us. She would not interfere to prevent it. And so individuals were enabled to introduce the institution without opposition. Now, I have alluded to this to ask you if this is not exactly the policy of Buchanan and his friends to place this government in the attitude then occupied by the government of Great Britain, placing the nation in the position to authorize the territories to reproach it for refusing to allow them to hold slaves. I would like to ask your attention, any gentleman, to tell me when the people of Kansas are going to decide. When are they to do it? And how are they to do it? I asked that question 2 years ago. When and how are they to do it? Well, not many weeks ago, our new senator from Illinois, Mr. Trumbull, asked Douglas how it could be done. Now, Douglas is a great man at keeping from answering questions he don't want to answer. And he would not answer. He said it was a question for the Supreme Court to decide. Now, in the North, his friends argue that the people can decide it at any time. The Southerners say there is no power in the people whatever. Now, we know that from the time that white people have been allowed in the territory, they have brought slaves with them. Now, suppose the people come up to vote as freely and with as perfect a protection as we could do it here. Will they be at liberty to vote their sentiments? If they can, then all that has ever been said about our provincial ancestors is untrue, and they could have done so also. Now, we know our Southern friends say that the general government cannot interfere. The people, say they, have no right to interfere. They could as truly say, it is amongst us, and we cannot get rid of it. But I'm afraid I waste too much time on this point. I take it as an illustration of the principle that slaves are admitted to the territories. And while I'm speaking of Kansas, how will that operate? Can men vote truly? Now, we will suppose that there are 10 men who go into Kansas to settle. 9 of these are opposed to slavery. 1 has 10 slaves. Now, the slaveholder is a good man in other respects. He's a good neighbor, and being wealthy, he's enabled to do others many neighborly kindnesses. And they like the man, though they don't like the system by which he holds fellow men in bondage. And here, just let me say that in intellectual and physical structure, our Southern brethren do not differ from us. They are, like us, subject to passions, and it is only their odious institution of slavery that makes the breach between us. Now, these 10 men of whom I was speaking, they live together 3 or 4 years. They intermarry. Their family ties are strengthened. And who wonders that in time the people learn to look upon slavery with complacency? This is the way in which slavery is planted and gained so firm a foothold. I think this is a strong card that the Nebraska party have played and won upon in this game. Now, I suppose that this crowd are opposed to the admission of slavery into Kansas. Yet, it is true that all crowds, there are some who differ from the majority. I want to ask the Buchanan men, who are against the spread of slavery, if there be any present, why not vote for the man who is against it? Now, I understand that Mr. Fillmore's position is precisely like Buchanan's. Now, I understand that by the Nebraska bill, a door has been opened for the spread of slavery into the territories. Examine, if you please, and see if they have ever done any such thing as to try to shut the door. It is true, Fillmore tickles a few of his friends with the notion that he is not the cause of the door being opened. Well, it brings him into this position. He tries to get both sides. One by denouncing those who opened the door, and the other by hinting that he doesn't care a fig for it being open. Now, if he were president, he would have one side or the other. He would either restrict slavery or not. Of course, it would be so. There could be no middle way. Now, you who hate slavery and love freedom, why not, as Fillmore and Buchanan are on the same ground, vote for Frémont? Why not vote for the man who takes your side of the question? Well, says Buccaneer, it is none of our business. But is it not our business? There are several reasons why I think it is our business. But let's see how it is. Others have urged these reasons before, but I think they're still of use. By our Constitution, we are represented in Congress in proportion to numbers. And in counting the numbers that give us our representatives, 3 slaves count as 2 people. The state of Maine has 6 representatives in the lower house of Congress. In strength, South Carolina is equal to her. But stop! Maine has twice as many white people and 32,000 to boot. Is that fair?